And hello and good morning. Hey, it's Boles TV, BOLES TV. I am David Boles here with you today. Interesting stories to tell, information to share, things to learn together. I wish you a good day if it's morning, noon, or night, wherever you happen to be in the world. Where we are, on the East Coast, New York City, strange weather. Middle of December, today's high will be 63 degrees. I have all the windows open. Now, how do you explain that? It's warm outside in the middle of December. And very briefly, I'll show you what's going on in Nebraska, Lincoln, and Omaha yesterday with this. The Grim Reaper. That's what they're calling it. This is what the radar looked like last night, with the Grim Reaper coming from the west, moving easterly to attack Omaha and Lincoln. And they were expecting terrible tornadoes, but it didn't really hit, luckily. But they reported at the airport winds were gusting up to 90 miles per hour, which is pretty bad. And in the middle of the city, 60 miles per hour, that's rough if you're not used to that kind of wind. But ultimately, it all faded. Everything's fine. Not a big deal. Brush it off and go along. So Jana, on her way to work today, did a wonderful thing for us and for me. She sent us some wonderful videos that I'm going to share with you momentarily. But first, we have a little thing to address, and we're going back to the browser screen. This is what happened to us yesterday at about 10:30 our time. 10:30 a.m. on the East Coast. Twitch, the technical term is, I believe, barfed at 10:30, around 10:30 in the morning. And if you happen to be streaming or watching a Twitch stream yesterday at 10:30 a.m., everything stopped. And luckily, I happened to be on a break. And I noticed while I was on break, I said, wait a minute, why are all of my screens not moving? Where is the live feed? So I came in, our setup was fine, everything was working. Excellent connection. Tried logging in. I got an oops message. Can't log in. So you go, what's going on with Twitch? And they have a status page, which is status.twitch.tv, which I didn't know then and I know now. So I just typed into my web browser, is Twitch down today? And this is the first thing that popped up. And you can see it's yellow and orange trouble all over, especially in the New York area, where Twitch just completely disconnected everybody. And it lasted for about an hour and a half, I think. Continuing on that report page, users reporting problems with Twitch. And you click on that button, I have a problem with Twitch, and you explain why. Website, can't log in, whatever it is. I said website. And you can see the mighty, 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 mighty peak right after 10 a.m. yesterday. 11,000 people went to that website and clicked on, I have a problem with Twitch. So you wait all day for Twitch to say, hey, we had a little thing. Everybody got disconnected. We're sorry about that. That never came. But the news was reporting it. And this was the incident that was resolved with Twitch yesterday. This is the Amazon hosting website where they explain things that are going on with their network. And it seems that's what happened yesterday, is Amazon went down, Amazon owns Twitch, and when Amazon goes down, Twitch goes down. And Amazon's been going down, as they say, a little more often lately. And I'm not exactly sure why. Way of the world? I don't know. So here are the lovely Jana videos that were sent today. This is 23rd Street and 6th Avenue subway. And I hope you can see these are very short videos, but they're just wonderful. Dog tile art. And here's what it looks like. Now, what's so wonderful, there are thousands and thousands and thousands of little teeny tiny tiles that have been made into this artwork installation. It looks permanent in the New York City subway. Now that's art. That's art that means something. You see it every day. You fall in love with it. We're calling those the blue dogs. Here are the yellow dogs. Hey, Dora. Thank you for joining us. I just love how this is all put together, and the tiles are not neat. They're not in rows. They're just aesthetically placed. This is the 23rd Street station at 6th Avenue. New York City. Beautiful. Just beautiful. It's the M or the E train, I think. If Jana Marie's listening, she can tell us. If she's watching, I mean, she can tell us. We're showing her videos. 23rd and 6th, but what train? That's the question that is open for the day. I'll type it. So, Jana Marie, we hope that she will see this. If she doesn't see it, then we're all losing out and we'll find her later. But she's very busy and she's not necessarily in the area, in our immediate area, or we would ask her directly. I haven't been on a train in a long time now. Well, you're one of the lucky ones. I would stay away from the trains as much as possible if you didn't have to be on them. I would say 80% to 90% of people wear their masks on a train. And we're going to talk about that a little more in a minute. And they're required in New York City, New York State, to wear masks on public transportation, but we know that there are people who don't want to do things. But the trains are sort of okay. And there's some social distancing. Some people don't wear masks and they yell and scream because that's kind of what you find on the subway sometime. And so the next stop, you get off and go to a different car. Now, I briefly want to say something to my friend Rachel Maddow. And Rachel doesn't know me, and I don't know her. Maybe she's watching today, but probably not. And I just want to say this. I enjoy your show, Rachel. You're very smart. You're very gifted. I hear rumors in the street that you don't want to continue hosting your show very much anymore, because you want to be a producer and not a host, which is fine, I understand. But one thing that has always concerned me with your show is this, what I call values fishing. Fishing for a compliment, maybe that's a more common term. Where you're very well researched, your show is very intricate, we know you know what you're doing. However, every time you have someone on your show, Rachel, who is an expert, you take 5 minutes introducing them. You tell us what they're going to talk about before they talk about it. You give the history of what they've said before. You give the history of what they have said momentarily and say in the future. You predict the future without knowing the future. And then you introduce your expert witness. Guest. And you could just say, and here they are, and start a conversation. But there's this weird thing you do, Rachel, where you ask for confirmation, affirmation of who you are as a person when you interview these people. And more often than not, and this is more annoying than you shuffling papers on your desk and pounding the desk, because that's very annoying. But you've cut that down recently, which I appreciate. But you ask these experts, after your long-winded introduction, hey, did I get that right? Did I explain it well? Did I cover everything? Did I miss anything? Do you need to correct me? And you know and I know, and the expert knows, that you didn't get anything wrong. So why bother asking? Well, you ask because you are fishing for vanity. You are fishing for a compliment. And 99.99999% of the time that I have watched Rachel introduce somebody and say that, did I get it right? Did I miss anything? And of course, the guest, thrilled to be on your show, says, oh, Rachel, you said it so well. I couldn't say it myself, and I'm the expert. You're just a ridiculous host on television. We love you, Rachel. Oh, you got it right. You're just so smart. And I'm saying, Rachel, we all know you're smart. I know you're smart. Your audience knows you're smart. Your guest knows you're smart. We all know you're smart. You don't have to go there and force someone to give you compliments about what a genius you are and how you get everything right. I'm sorry, it's that time of day. My neighbor is hotboxing me. Excuse me. And there's nothing that can be done about it. It's legal now to hotbox your neighbor in luxury living. So thank you, Rachel, for this consideration. And I know you'll never see this, but I feel better getting it off my chest. Because you're so good, you don't need that. You don't need to grovel for a compliment. And if you've ever watched her show, you know exactly what I'm talking about. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, watch her show and you'll see. She does it every day. So yesterday, I went to the dermatologist for my monthly checkup. And it was an interesting conversation. I have a very good dermatologist, and he does not waste your time. I go to the cardiologist for many years, and there was one particular doctor I was seeing for a while. You go there are 20 people in the waiting room, and you wait 2 hours. No matter who you are, you wait 2 hours to get in and see the doctor. It's absolutely ridiculous. It's cruel. It wastes your time, and it makes you very angry. And ironically, it raises your blood pressure. So by the time you get in to see the doctor, after waiting 2 hours in this packed waiting room, your blood pressure is sky high. Oh, you need to raise your medication and come back in a week. My dermatologist is not like that. He is famous for seeing you in 5 seconds and putting you out the door. And you don't mind, because he does everything he needs to do to you within those 5 seconds. If he's cutting something out of you, if he's spraying you with a freeze spray, if he's etching you with an acid pencil, he works very efficiently. Boom, boom, boom. 3 waiting rooms. Boom, 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 boom. Just like a circle. A pinwheel. So I like going to that doctor. He's right around the corner. So I go there. I'm out in 15 seconds. And yesterday, he's old, 78 years old. That's why I like him a lot, because he's been around and he knows everything. He said, what are you doing for the holidays? And I said, well, what we've always been doing for the holidays, which is 100% of nothing. We're staying home. We're hiding from people. And he said, are you getting compliments on your skin? He said, your skin looks wonderful. These blue light treatments are just great. And we've talked about blue light treatments here before. He takes an acid pencil, marks places usually on my forehead that are cancerous or look precancerous, and then I go sit in front of a blue light for 9 minutes exactly. I see him for 5 seconds. I'm in front of the blue light for 9 minutes, and then I leave. And we do that every month. It's cancer prevention. I said, no, people are not really commenting on my skin. Why not? I said, well, 2 things. I'm not seeing anybody. And 2, when I do see people, I have a mask on. And I don't know, generally, do people comment on other people's skin? Oh my goodness, you're looking radiant today. Who is your dermatologist? Maybe they do. I've never had anybody say that to me. And maybe he meant my beautiful wife, Jana Marie. And she does compliment me on my skin. So we said, no, we're not, but no one's complimenting me on my skin, and we're not going anywhere anyway. And he said, yeah. He said, my wife, who is a dermatologist as well, they have a place together. He's in on some days, she's in on other days, and some days they're there together. And she said, yeah, my wife yesterday just canceled our Christmas trip to Aruba. I said, oh, because of this Omicron thing? He said, yes. And he said, we were taking the whole family. Me, the kids, the grandkids, we're going to be ganging up, getting on a plane, flying to Aruba for Christmas, holidays. And I said, so now what? He said, well, we tried to get our money back from the resort and from the airline. And they said, no, you can't have any of your money back. I said, even if it's COVID? They said, no. He said, you have a year where you can use it up, but you're not getting any money back. And then he looked at me, he said, you know, between us. I said, yeah. He said, between us, in a year, nothing's going to change. And I said, what do you mean nothing's going to change? Are you talking about COVID? He said, yeah. He said, this thing is nasty, and it's changing, and it's not going away, and it's not going to get better. And I know that. And it was sort of comforting to hear it from a medical professional who is 78 years old and doesn't want to get sick. And I said, so what are you going to do with your trip? He said, I don't know. I said, my wife said, we're not getting on a plane with all these people and all these fights. People don't want to wear masks. And on the news yesterday, Southwest Airlines, American Airlines saying, we don't think we should have to wear masks on our airlines. We have HEPA filters. And thank goodness all of the news today is discrediting that, saying that is the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard. A HEPA filter does not prevent you from getting coronavirus, COVID, with the person sitting next to you who is a stranger on an airplane. Oh, Dora. I have a couple of young men across the street and a new father who I know smoke pot, and I always smell it. I have closed windows in the summer or run when I'm out. When I was younger, they did. Now I need a facelift. I'm grateful I made it this far. What's the alternative? I know. The pot stuff is just really a problem. And the problem is enforcement, because they now can get these medical exemptions, just like they're doing with the COVID vaccine. Well, I understand the law, but it doesn't apply to me because I have a situation. I have glaucoma. I have pre-glaucoma, so I can smoke as much pot as I want. It makes me feel better. Now, the way that the rules are written in this building is you cannot smoke at all, no matter what. If you have a medical condition, doesn't matter. You have to go. Vaping, which I don't find as obnoxious as the smoke from weed, is also not allowed. You cannot vape in the building. Now, of course, people do, but you don't really smell it because it kind of comes and goes. It's a big nasty. Yeah, it's the med condition, Dora. That's what they always use. And now that it's legal and no one's going to arrest anybody for pot anymore in New York or New Jersey, it's just a big F you to people who are not interested. So we got rid of regular smoking because it's a health hazard and it bothers people. And it's inconsiderate. And now we have a whole new thing, smoking pot. Oh, this isn't really smoking. So my skin doctor said, well, we have to use these certificates. And I guess, I'm guessing his trip was probably at least $30,000. Based on the airline, how long they were staying, and all the members of his family. He said, well, it's money, but I've lost more money than that. So I guess if we lose it, we lose it. He said, you know, my wife and I, just the two of us, in the off season, might just try to sneak over there to Aruba and not tell anybody. We'll just go. And then we'll come back and we'll let them know what we did, and then we'll give them their tickets and they can go when they feel they want to go. And that's probably smart because there are a lot of people out there who are carriers and who may have good immune systems who are infecting other people. And we're going to talk about that. I think right now, this may bleed into our next break, but that's okay. So this whole COVID thing is just taking over our lives. Dora's going to Boston via Amtrak. Not sure it's a good idea. I understand. And as this conversation is going to flow, you'll see that everything is shutting down again. Everything is coming back down together. Now, we're not going to go into a lockdown. We're not going to get any more stimulus money. Nobody cares about any of that anymore. But as far as things getting canceled, stand by. So this popped up yesterday. And we know this, that fat people have a big problem with COVID. But this really puts it right in your face. 60% of COVID patients have diabetes. That's 4 times the general population, and there's about an 8% increase in COVID mortality from diabetes. The risk of severe COVID, being hospitalized in an ICU on a ventilator, show that you have a 95% higher risk of death if your diabetes is uncontrolled. So both for obesity and diabetes, we see a much higher prevalence in people with COVID and many poor outcomes, particularly the risk of death. And hypertension, here we go. Just regular old ugly high blood pressure. And we have a break coming up soon. Is about half the US population, so I'm not special. 50% of people you know have high blood pressure. Little higher in men than women. All the hotheads out there. Probably even more than that, because many people don't even know that they have blood pressure. It is called the silent killer. And where do people find out that they have high blood pressure that has already damaged them? It's not in the cardiologist's office. It's not in the emergency room. They find out, most of the time, from their eye doctor, their ophthalmologist, when they go in for an eye exam, if the doctor is good and does a thorough exam. Because the very fine, beautiful, teeny tiny little blood vessels in the back of your eye are the first thing to get damaged by diabetes. And that's why every time I go, I'm nervous. I say, do you see any damage? Because I know you're the first one who's going to find it. This is the canary in the coal mine. And I've been very lucky so far that they say your eyes are absolutely fine. Now, I know they're not because I have floaters and there are areas I can't see. But when it comes to diabetes, so far, so good. But then again, I haven't been to the eye doctor for a year and a half because of COVID. So, or the dentist, terrified to go. The dental office is where you're really going to get stuck because you got to open your mouth, you got to breathe on people. And I feel sorry for these dentists who have to put up with that terrible, terrorizing fear, and it is. How can you protect yourself from someone opening their mouth and breathing on you and you putting your fingers in their mouth? It's very dangerous. And the eye doctor, if it's doing it right, is right up on your face and you're on their face. But it's probably a lot more safe than going to the dentist. And speaking of COVID, it's going everywhere and affecting lots of places. Especially in entertainment. Broadway shows are canceling shows. Oh, that's good, Dora. Thank you for the notice about the dentist. We're very careful with our teeth. We try not to chew or do anything that would break them, and we've got to go back because we have a wonderful artistic dentist who I think is a genius and who really takes care of us. But I don't want to go. But I know we have to go. I'm glad you went. I like the precautions. It's more for them than for us because they're all probably in PPE gear. So we're the ones who are going to hurt them more than them hurting us, I think. So these Broadway shows are being not canceled, but postponed. The shows, individual shows, are being canceled because of COVID outbreaks. Read in the New York Times today about 3, 4, 5, 6 shows regularly have cancellations because they cannot find people to replace the crew or stand in for the artists, the actors. And here's Sean Penn, who is radical and wonderful and has always done his own thing his entire career, refused to be on a set, the set of Gaslit, in July until all cast and crew had been vaccinated. The production did have its Zone A requirement, meaning that everyone who is in Zone A, which is the acting space, all of those people, the actors, the cinematographer, all those people have to be vaccinated. But then there are concentric circles. There's Jana Marie. We haven't been to the dentist. Our bad. We need to go. Oh boy. We do. We do. I'll type to Jana Marie. And I typed to Jana Marie because she is deaf and she watches as best she can because she's somewhere other than here, doing things other than here. And sometimes she's able to see what we're doing and sometimes she's not able to see. But she can read the chat, which is great, so that's the best way to find her if she's not too busy. Whoops. So Sean Penn, we're waiting for Janet to reply if she can. So Sean Penn is taking a stand. Whoops. Mr. Penn said the film industry, other industries, and political leaders have been cowardly in not supporting vaccine mandates on set and elsewhere. The Gaslit production continued filming scenes that didn't involve Mr. Penn, then replaced unvaccinated crew with vaccinated workers to finish his scenes, according to people familiar with the set. There's Jana Marie. No, but it's at 26th Street, 23rd Street, and 6th Avenue. Okay. I guess it's a secret, then, why we can't know what train it is. Okay. Oh, it's the M train. Thank you. Thank you. Sean Penn said other actors who are in a position of influence, like him, and whose participation in a film helps secure financing, should be making the same vaccine demands on set. Yeah, they're making a lot of very interesting artwork in the subways, and I'm so happy that Jana is able to take time to not only make the videos, but then send them to me. And she made them this morning very early and sent them to me. And I was like, wow, I can use them today, right now. It's fabulous. So Zone A is where all the actors are. Then you have Zone B, C, out, 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 out. And Sean Penn wants not just Zone A, they want everybody vaccinated. All four walls of dogs in the subway. I think that's wonderful. It's beautiful artwork. And I guess some of these people that Sean Penn was interacting with were drivers. And people who drive on these film sets are very important. They don't just drive you to and from the hotel, they drive you to different locations. You're in cars with drivers a lot on these professional sets. And I guess Sean Penn didn't want to be driven by an unvaccinated driver. And I'm with him. I wouldn't do that either. So, unvaccinated drivers on Gaslit were moved to other productions. The Secretary-Treasurer of Teamsters Local 399, which is the drivers' union, and that local represents drivers and location managers, casting directors, and animal handlers. He said that while he encourages and supports vaccinations, the union is opposed to an across-the-board vaccine mandate. And I have to ask you, why? And as we contemplate that question, we're going to continue this conversation about how COVID affects us. But right now, the sirens are here. And that means it's time for mandatory blood pressure break. Back in a moment. We are back from break. Hello, I'm David Boles. Thank you for being with us here on Boles.tv, BOLES.tv. This is the live stream. Interesting conversation so far about dermatology and coronavirus. And we have Doris chatting with us, and Jana Marie is somewhere in the world logging in and saying hello, which we certainly appreciate. Hello, JMS. So we're talking about Sean Penn being very proactive, and people have lost their jobs in the industry. There was a soap opera guy who refused to get vaccinated, and they fired him. There was another actor, was it? I don't remember his name, who was supposed to be in a Jack Black movie, and he did not want to get vaccinated, and he was fired from the movie. So maybe these vaccinations will start influencing people to do the right thing. Johnny Rogers in Lincoln, Nebraska, big superstar, Heisman Trophy winner. Every year, 50 years, he's been going to the Heisman Trophy award ceremony in New York City. And this year he didn't go. First time he missed it because he got COVID-19. Was not vaccinated. And I guess he had a family member who was sick in Colorado, and his son, I believe, and someone else went to get them, drove them back to Omaha, because Omaha Medical Center at the university is a major COVID hub for very sick people. And then because it was all of his family members, Johnny got sick. He was in the hospital for a month on a ventilator. Not ventilator, oxygen. He refused to be on a ventilator. Had a hard time to breathe, and then his mother was sick, and she, I believe, died of COVID. Or someone in his family died of COVID. I believe it was his mother or sister. So his whole family was infected. He was unvaccinated, and now Johnny Rogers is saying, hey, get the vaccine. Don't be like me. Although I have not seen Johnny Rogers say, and I'm getting the vaccine when I am able. He's telling you to get the vaccine, but he didn't get the vaccine. He got very sick. He's an old man in his 70s, sick with COVID, and not saying that he'll get the vaccine. It's a little disappointing. Do as I say, not as I've done. So there's no Omicron variant that's now with us. And as my skin doctor says, in a year we're going to have another terrible outbreak, because this thing is here to stay. And it's here to stay because of the people who will not get the vaccine. It's just that simple. It's the unvaccinated who are carrying this thing forward, not the vaccinated people. And that poses a threat to the vaccinated people. It's a big issue. And here we go with universities. Cornell University in New York City. I feel like I'm going to sneeze because of my hotboxing. And if I sneeze once, I sneeze 3 times. How do you know? It's part of my DNA profile, actually, with 23andMe. Tap my nose. Don't sneeze. So Cornell University, Ivy League school, genius people in New York City. They have a vaccine mandate. They, like other schools, are going to have a booster mandate before the start of the spring semester. They wear masks in school, in the classroom, on campus at all times. And they have had an Omicron outbreak. Done everything right. How is this happening? We don't know. We've got to find out. And some people are saying, well, this Omicron, well, it's not that bad. Mild. And other doctors are saying, we don't know that yet. Dora says in Singapore, they force everyone to get vaccinated, like it or not. Well, I agree with that, and that's the way it has to be. And it should have been that way from the very, very beginning of this whole thing. It's not your choice. You do it because you're part of society. So Cornell University moved to red alert level after 833 students tested positive in the week ending Monday. And since this story was published, it's now up to 1,000. 1,000 students have tested positive. The move means the Ithaca, New York Ivy League school is essentially shutting down its campus. Exams are going online, libraries are closed, events are canceled, sirens are going, preventing guests from entering campus. Cornell said its lab identified evidence of the Omicron variant in a significant number of Monday's positive student samples. Princeton University, in the great state of New Jersey, citing an uptick in cases among students, made all of its exams remote, canceled indoor gatherings, and encouraged students who plan to travel home for the holiday break to leave campus as soon as possible. Hey, thanks for paying your tuition money for the semester. Now get out and go home and infect everybody there. Since the rise in our case counts just registered yesterday, we made this decision now so that you won't have to stay on campus should you test positive, university leaders said. More than 50 students of the 8,200 who attend New Jersey Ivy League University tested positive for COVID-19 Monday and Tuesday, adding to Princeton statistics. And now it's not just Cornell, it's NYU as well. And this is public information, not private information. NYU appears to sort of publicly be freaking out, as are Princeton and Cornell, because if you know people who teach at NYU, you know a lot of students are not going to class because they are COVID-19 positive. Why do we have these classes in person? Why not just leave them online? We did it for 1.5 years and it was fine. Our foremost priority is the health and well-being of NYU community members. With that foundation as a guide, our academic priority is to ensure that the academic progress of our students is maintained, and crucial end of semester assignments, examinations, papers can be smoothly and successfully completed. We strongly encourage the final exams and/or assessments be changed to remote, the online format. Faculty should notify students of the final exam format as soon as possible, and ideally no later than 5 p.m. Wednesday, December 15th. So I think we know where this is going. It's not looking great for the spring semester, I tell you. But these universities make their money. Their millions and millions and millions of dollars of money by having students on campus and charging them fees and charging them dorm costs. And it's hard to charge $80,000 a year for sitting at home in your parents' house in California and taking all of your classes remotely. So the push is to strangle everybody and bring them back to class and put them on campus and put them in the classroom and shoot them up with vaccines and make sure they wear masks. And yet, we have these outbreaks. We get a new variant. Well, I think you have a booster, you're going to be okay. But more people are getting infected. Will they just give in the spring in these schools? All of these schools just say, look, we're just going to go remote. We can't deal with this every week. And if you know people who teach in the New York City area, there are a lot of students who don't go to class because they're sick, or they know someone who is sick with COVID. They've been in close contact. So the rules say they can't go to class, and then they fall behind, and then they never get caught up. And what's a teacher supposed to do? A teacher can't teach an individual class 20 times for 20 students in the class. It's impossible. So how is this going to end? Is there just going to come a time where these schools say, oh, just forget it. Take off your masks. We give in. If we get sick, we get sick. It's difficult because they're doing everything they can to proactively avoid this coronavirus infection, and it's not working. The virus is smarter than the people running the show. So it's going to be a difficult spring. That is my prediction. And it hasn't even started yet. So and it's 61 degrees in New York City. Beautiful weather. We had beautiful weather for the past month. And everything's going up. And now, eventually, January is going to get bitterly cold. People are not going to be outside. They're going to be inside all the time together in a room. And that doesn't sound very good. It sounds slightly dangerous. But will these schools push forward and make you come to class anyway? They're already, these schools, mandating boosters for faculty and students. They're saying you cannot be here on our campus starting in January unless you have a booster shot. Okay, that's good. That's mandatory mandate. Because they say the booster shot is what kind of protects you from Omicron. Is that true? Nobody knows yet. So, speaking of these curious vaccine mandates, we take the next step forward, or perhaps a step back, to take a larger view of another vaccine that is really super important and that most parents seem to understand and accept for some reason. And that is the HPV vaccine, sexually transmitted disease vaccine that can save lives of children. And most parents I know don't have a problem giving that vaccine, but when it comes to COVID, there are a lot of parents who say, not my kid. I don't understand it. So, the US government wants 80% of kids to get vaccinated. And there's this new study that came out talking about the dangers of this HPV stuff that goes on in young kids that's giving them cancer and killing them at an early age. At the start of each decade, the Healthy People Program in the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services establishes goals to reduce the most significant preventable threats to health, which include an 80% target for the HPV vaccination program. However, in the U.S., just 54% of adolescents and only 21% of young adults were adequately vaccinated for HPV as of 2019. To gauge the effect on accomplishing an 80% target, which we call herd immunity, we've learned that through coronavirus, accomplishing an 80% target on male oropharyngeal cancer. Now, I knew I was not going to say that correctly. And this is how it's pronounced.
Oropharynx.
Oropharynx. It's in the back of the throat, which is very important to understand what's going on here, okay? Back of the throat. It's a back of the throat cancer. I'm calling it that from now on because I'll never remember how to pronounce that. What is this cancer? How does it affect the body? It's a very serious thing that hits young kids. And you're wondering why. How does this thing hit the young kids? Our study is the first to develop and validate a comprehensive mathematical modeling framework of the natural history of oral HPV infection and its progression to that throat cancer. Achievement of the goal by 2025 of 80% and maintaining it could lead to the prevention of almost 1 million throat cancers in young men, and could lead to its elimination by the 2070s. Whereas maintaining the current vaccination rate of 54% could prevent almost 800,000 cases. But the throat cancer elimination will not occur by the end of the century. Okay, you're thinking, where are these kids' throat cancer? HPV is the leading cause of cancer in the throat, the middle part of the throat, behind the oral cavity. There are approximately 16,000 cases of that deep throat cancer in the United States annually, and more than 70% of those preventable cancers are caused by the human papillomavirus. The vaccine prevents nearly all cancer-causing infections. The Advisory Committee on Human Immunization Practices of the Center for Disease Control recommends HPV vaccination at 11 and 12 years old, with catch-up variations through the age of 26. So this is a long-term thing. This is not a short-term thing. Now, the most concerning thing about this is there are young men, mostly men, who are dying of this deep throat cancer. And you're thinking, how? How is this sexually transmitted? What's going on? And that's what we have to understand. This deep throat cancer is located in the middle part of your throat. Symptoms include a sore throat that doesn't go away, a lump in the throat, mouth, or neck, coughing up blood, white patch in the mouth, and other symptoms. Treatments may include surgery, radiation therapy, chemotherapy, targeted drug therapy, and immunotherapy. So if you get the HPV vaccine, you're not probably going to get this kind of cancer. And the question is this: why that cancer? What's going on? This is not penile cancer or ovary cancer or uterine cancer. This is cancer that is in the throat, the deep throat, if you know what I mean. So we have to realize and accept and understand that young people are, especially male, having oral sex and getting infected by their partners and swallowing and getting this kind of cancer. HPV is the vaccine that helps you avoid this very specific kind of cancer. And women get it too, but it's mainly young men. Now, are these mainly young men who are homosexual or straight? Well, if they think about oral sex, it goes both ways. You can give it and receive it, woman to woman, man to man, woman to man, man to woman. And we're taught, look, if you're going to do that kind of stuff, wear a condom. If you're with a woman, use a dental dam. And nobody wants that. They want to experience it directly. Well, if you want to experience it directly and not have to use a condom or a dental dam for just even oral sex, then you got to get the HPV vaccine and be safe and not die from this very preventable sort of deep throat cancer. And with that, it's time for a small blood pressure break. I'll see you in a moment. And we're back. I'm David Boles. This is Boles.tv, BOLES.tv. Coming to you live every weekday, 9 a.m. Eastern, right here. Live. The live stream, always free. If you're not subscribed, you'll get a little bit of advertising. If you are subscribed, you won't get any advertising, and you'll have full access to our video-on-demand archive, filled with all sorts of interesting thoughts and dreams. And coming up tomorrow is Jana Marie Sweetheart. She's going to be doing an ASL lesson. Rumor is she's doing an ASL song, which will be really fun and interesting. That should be 10:15 tomorrow, 10:30-ish. And then the really big shoe on Saturdays and Sundays, 11 a.m. Eastern, you get Jana Marie for an hour all to yourself, where she does a little bit of sign language teaching, talks about disability, deafness. Her show is called Jana Sweeney, Ask a Deaf Person. So you can ask her questions about hearing aids or cochlear implants or interpreting issues, note takers, captioning in class, captioning on television, and she'll just tell you what she thinks. She's not claiming to be an expert, although I claim her to be an expert. She will just share her experience with you. And I'm there, I'm one of the moderators, to help keep her safe from these trolls who sometimes pop in and say nasty things. So we're going to continue talking about a little bit of censorship and shadow banning and a couple of other interesting topics as we bounce around today. And earlier in the week we talked about government censorship. And when we talk about censorship in America, it's always from the governmental perspective. There are people who will claim if you have a blog or if you're online, you're violating my freedom of speech. And you have to tell these people, look, freedom of speech has nothing to do with me and nothing to do with you in our context. Freedom of speech has to do with speaking out, First Amendment, against the government. Dora had a dream about Ed Sullivan. Very few people know who Ed Sullivan is. You'll have to tell us all your dream. And so we talk about this idea of the censorship that encompasses us from the government. And the government can't just say, well, I'm censoring you. They can try, but they usually fail. But the way that they censor us is through passing laws. Not just executive orders or mandates. They get together and they write a law to shut people up. And that's why these social media networks are so terrified of having the government step in and tell them they have to be fairer, they have to be more proactive. Because it's an impossible thing to do. You really can't do that. But that doesn't mean the government isn't going to try. And there are bad actors in government, as there are in other places. And what I'm talking about right now is Texas and this abortion ban. Which is what it is. Hamstringing Roe versus Wade. And the Supreme Court has validated that that's fine. And other communities and states are going to follow suit, and pretty soon Roe versus Wade may still be there in title, but it won't be there in effect. And that's not okay for a lot of people because Roe has been decided law. Stare decisis. And so people are saying, okay, well, Texas did this. They outlawed. Oh, new follower. Thank you for the follow. XRIUC. Welcome to the show. Have a little chat with us. And so people say, well, that's okay. So we'll collect money and we'll contact women in Texas and we won't have anything to do with abortion, but we'll make it easy for them to get the day after pill, which you can buy over the counter anywhere in America. which, as I understand it, will then end a pregnancy, not an abortion, end a pregnancy within a couple of days after taking the pill. So we're safe, we're safe. We have a way out. And to that, I sort of laugh internally while crying, saying, okay, why do you think that Texas and other conservative places are going to allow the sale of the day after pill? If they successfully go after abortion rights and clamp those down, why are they going to allow a go-around? They're not. They're going to pass a law saying day after pill is an abortion, no matter what you call it. Ending a pregnancy is an abortion. And then, is it so radical to take the next step? Well, what about these condoms? You know, condoms prevent pregnancy, and we want all our women pregnant so they can be obedient and do as we say. So let's get rid of these condoms too. Let's get rid of the pill. Let's just have fertility everywhere. And that might be okay if you had cradle to the grave health insurance and guaranteed income for people. Okay, you might try some mandate like that, but you don't. The government doesn't. And they don't care about that. All they care about is control. And generally, they want men in charge and women being obedient. That's what these laws do. So I'm not sure there's going to be an easy way out of this. Now, there are states like California and New York that say we will be abortion sanctuaries. Come to us and we'll take care of you. Well, really? I guess the Supreme Court will see about that. And it's packed against that idea. So that's how the government censors people beyond just free speech. They censor behavior that they don't like, while claiming, oh, it's fine. Well, we want you to have a baby, but we're not going to support the baby. You got pregnant. You can't end the pregnancy yourself in any way. We're going to outlaw that as well. And it's going to be a never-ending stream of pushing back and tests. Because the abortion crowd believes they won big in Texas. And they believe they will win big in the Supreme Court. And they're not going to stop pushing. Their goal isn't just to end abortion. Their goal is to religiously create and promote life. Like it or not. And that's censorship that counts. That's censorship that affects your every daily need. And it's troublesome. Now we're going to change topics. Something that we talked about earlier in the week, again, we're talking about it again because it's just tremendously interesting to me. And that is this big flop of West Side Story. Now, Bob Lefsetz is a wonderful, genius human being. And he has some kind of skin cancer that's just awful, that affects his immunity, and he can't, I don't believe, get the shot, so he has to require masks around him at all times. He really can't go out much, but he's very lively. And he provides some really interesting analysis of why West Side Story, the movie version, flopped. And it's all about Spielberg. So Bob says that Spielberg is an unknown quantity amongst Generation Z and amongst a lot of millennials too, which is very interesting if you're old like me and over 50. Jaws, that movie, was 46 years ago. And I remember when I saw that movie, I was terrified. I was too young to see that movie. Every time the shark music came on, I would hide my eyes and cower in my seat. I was really, really scared. E.T. was 39 years ago. Jurassic Park is now a franchise that is not associated with him. Those are Spielberg's greatest hits, and they're all in the past. But to the aged titans in the film industry, Spielberg is a god. That'd be like saying young people love Bad Company in Boston. Sure, there's an audience of old people. But Bad Company in Boston aren't remakes. Imagine a cover album of their tunes today. It would be dead in the water. Bob is a music guy. That's where he's coming from. We see this with tribute albums. They almost universally fail. It doesn't matter how good they are. People want the original. And then Bob goes on to talk about how they should have sold West Side Story. And here's where it gets really interesting. If you're marketing to adults, you have to make it easy. You have to make it a value proposition. They move slowly, us, the old people. We move slowly and wait for word of mouth. And by the time the word of mouth gains traction for a movie, the film is no longer in the theater. The movie business no longer moves at the speed of adults. It's faster now. Boomers remember when films played for 6 months. You start theaters in New York and LA, and then you perform out across the country over weeks. Today, these movies open in thousands of theaters, make most of their money right up front, and then disappear to the flat screen. They go on TV. And that's so fast that unless you're passionate, truly passionate, you can wait for the appearance on the flat screen. And you don't want to pay an on-demand fee. Absolutely right. It must be baked into the service you're already paying for. 100% correct. And here's the most interesting paragraph of the whole thing. Bob just tells it right like it is. Steven Spielberg. And this is the point we made yesterday or the day before right here. Steven Spielberg doing an updated, improved version of West Side Story. I ask you, who is waiting for that? Spielberg is about action, not gravitas. He's got no history with music. He's not Bob Fosse. And despite Schindler's List, he's got little reputation for being highbrow. He's not in the wheelhouse of the aged cognoscenti who go to foreign films and theaters to feel better about themselves, to brag, wearing their attendance as a badge of honor. As a matter of fact, the revered makers of adult films, not porno films, adult films are almost all gone. The hero directors of today, Michael Bay, Christopher Nolan. Fabulous. If you don't know Bob Lefsetz, you can go to Lefsetz, LEFSETZ.com, and sign up for his letter. You can read it online or have it delivered to your email whenever he writes, and he writes often, and usually very late at night. That is absolutely delightful. You'll enjoy him. And here's what Variety had to say about West Side Story, because everyone's talking about it. How could Steven Spielberg, the great Steven Spielberg, flop? The biggest obstacle facing West Side Story is and will continue to be convincing old people like me to go to theaters. Along with families, it's the main demographic that has not returned in full force since the pandemic. And it won't for a long time, I guarantee you that. Particularly at a time when a new COVID variant has emerged, though it's too soon to say how it will affect all moviegoing. Among the select people who bought tickets on opening weekend for West Side Story, 57% were female, and 26%, the largest percentage, were over the age of 55. The second largest percentage of moviegoers, 21%, were between 25 and 34. So these are old people going to this movie. Historically, adult audiences don't make as much of an effort to go see a film on its opening weekend. During the pandemic, people over the age of, say, 40 are not making an effort at all. Very true. We're not going anywhere for the holidays. We're staying locked in our apartment. We don't want to see people in person. Getting those crowds back to the big screen will be key in the movie theater's ecosystem's revival. Given stellar reviews and positive audience reactions, it's feasible that word of mouth will spread and convince potential skeptics about the need for another West Side Story. Many Oscar pundits believe it'll be a formidable awards contender, which could boost its profile and sustain its life in theaters. I don't think so. I think it's done. Dead and done. Because now we live, unfortunately, in a cartoon world. And I'm getting a little bit tired of it, I admit. I don't want to see the Avengers anymore. I don't want to see Marvel movies. I don't want to see DC comic movies. That's all that's in the movies today. Blowing up people, and it's not even real acting. It's all CGI. It's people blowing up things. People in spandex wearing costumes. That's what movies are today. That's what makes money. That's what reflects the life of the people who are trying to lead a more interesting and better life, and it's not going very well. Now, you may have seen this on the news today, and I'm just sharing it with you today because I think it's just wonderful. And they don't talk about it very much. But we have this thing called the Parker Solar Probe that has reached kind of the outskirts, the corona, I'm not a scientist, near the sun. And it's poked itself inside this corona thing of the sun and is getting readings and has been sending them back to the Earth. And we've never touched the sun in this way ever before. And it's just beautifully fascinating. The spacecraft crossed the Alphen boundary when it was around 14 million kilometers, or just under 20 solar radii, from the sun's surface. That's where the team members had expected to find this interface. Some researchers had speculated that the boundary between space and what's encompassing the sun that this probe went into, some speculate the boundary would be fuzzy. But instead, and this is what's so wonderful about science, we think one thing, we find out something else. That's why you always have to be open-minded. Whether you're a scientist or whether you're just a regular person on the street. Well, in New York City, coronavirus infections are up 100% in the last week. Now that's interesting. I wonder if I should reconsider my vaccine status. Dora says, I read that, haven't had a chance to read and see pics. The pics are wonderful. I think they're invented, but they came from NASA. This photograph I shared, this is invented and came from NASA, so that's their depiction of what it looks like. So we thought this boundary would be fuzzy, but it was instead somewhat sharp and wrinkly, which I think is just a wonderful turn of phrase. From fuzzy to sharp and wrinkly. You wouldn't think sharp and wrinkly belong in the same sentence. The spacecraft passed into the corona for nearly 5 hours and then back out again. And might have crossed into, briefly, twice more. Inside the corona, the solar wind speeds and plasma densities dropped, suggesting the boundary had indeed been crossed. We are learning new things that we did not have access to before. Wow. Talk about touching God. Why don't you go try touching the sun? And you think you're going to touch something that's fuzzy, but then you find out, no, it's really rather sharp and it's wrinkly. As this probe crossed the Alphen surface, the Parker probe flew through a pseudo-streamer of electricity that charged material inside which conditions were quieter than the roiling environment outside. While inside the corona, the spacecraft also studied unusual kinks in the magnetic field of the solar wind, known as switchbacks. And we have switchbacks here on Earth. They usually have to do with roads where you go one way and then the other. That's how you get down a mountain, is a switchback. You don't go straight down, you go like this. Scientists knew about the switchbacks previously, but the Parker Solar Probe data have allowed them to trace where they come from all the way down to the solar surface. It's just so wonderful. And that's NASA, and that's where our money is going. Our tax money. A lot of it goes to kill people in foreign lands and wars with the military. And some of it goes up there to allow us to peek inside the sun for the first time ever in the history of humankind. And that's the lesson we take away from it. We think one thing, we find out something else. We have to leave our thoughts and our prejudices at the door. But they can help us a little bit. That's why this whole thing started. Well, there's the sun. We think we know this. It looks very fuzzy from here. So let's go up and actually touch it and see if it's fuzzy. Oh, no, wait. It's sharp and it's wrinkly. And there's an old man joke in there somewhere, but I'm not going to tell it. I think it tells itself. Well, I thought he'd be fuzzy, but he was really rather sharp and wrinkly. And with that, we're going to take another blood pressure break and come back and talk about shadow banning on the internet. It's a real thing, and I find it quite lovely. Back in a minute. And we are back from break. Thank you for being here. I'm David Boles. This is Boles.tv. We're live every weekday, 9 a.m. Eastern, right here on Boles.tv. So I love this idea of going out and touching the sun. And I realized on the break as I'm walking around, you know, if you are touching the sun, are you not also touching God? Sort of an interesting thought. Well, now we're going to talk about shadow banning. What is shadow banning? I'll explain it. And I fully support shadow banning. And I'll explain why with this precursor to this conversation. If you are a content creator and a content provider with a blog, with a book, a discussion area, you usually want to engage people like we do here and have them come in, share their thoughts and dreams, and have a conversation. However, there are people in the world who do not want to do that. They want to come in and burn the place down. They want to throw firebombs. They want to talk about crocodile poopy and pee-pee and all that stuff that we've had here in our live chat. And those people are banned. And in my blog, we had an early blog. We've been on the internet actively since 93 or so. So we have a lot of experience dealing with these people who come in and throw bombs. And the second you remove their comment for being inappropriate, they scream censorship. And you're violating my rights. You're violating my free speech. I'm going to go tell mommy and daddy. I'm going to report you to the government for violating my rights. And who wants to put up with that? Threaten you, leave you voicemail. They just can't disagree. Say, well, okay, thank you for sharing that idea. I don't disagree with you, and so I'm not going to be a member of this community anymore. I'm leaving. Okay, I understand. Bye. They don't do that. They want to punch, shoot, kill, threaten. They get off on it. And we've had a president recently who does that, who lives on hatred and on causing trouble. And that's why when Trump was banned from Twitter, all of his fans said, I'm leaving Twitter. I don't want to have anything to do with Twitter. And the rest of the world sighed with relief and said, thank God, finally they're gone. And then they all came back. Because they all went to Parler, I think was the main place they were going to go talk about it. And they frankly said, Parler's boring. We're all in the same room. We all think the same way. We're all talking the same way. Where's the fun in that? We want to go beat up people. We want to have conflict. We want to challenge ideas. So they all came back to Twitter. To the detriment of the world. And on Reddit, which is highly moderated, there are groups that are Trump supporting, against Trump, liberal, conservative, all kinds of groups. It's a wonderful place, a great community. They're going public soon. And the people in some of the liberal groups were complaining about these conservatives who come into their liberal group and start trouble and argue with people and what I call fire starters, firebugs. They just want to see the world burn. And these liberal group people were having conversations. So why do they come into our group to start trouble with us? We don't go to their conservative group and argue with them. We have no interest in them. Why do they come to our group and try to make trouble for us? And it seems the idea is because that's what they enjoy. That's who these people are. They want to go in to a very calm, interesting place and cause trouble. Thank you for the weather report, Dora. I guess you're out walking and watching us, which is wonderful. Yes, it is windy right here. Trusty Apple Watch tells me it's 13 miles per hour coming out of the southwest. 56 degrees currently. Now, I have learned through my life that anything over 9 miles per hour is uncomfortable for me because I don't like the wind. I am very cat-like in not liking the wind. So 13 for me is a little too windy. I was thinking of going outside and enjoying the sun. Now, because of Dora's weather report, I don't think I'm going anywhere. We'll keep going for another 2 hours. So anyway, you have these people who come into your sacred place and want to cause trouble. And so some of them get their messages deleted, excuse me, or they get banned. And of course, then, oh, I'm the victim. You've banned me from speaking the truth. And you want to say, you know, who's the snowflake here? You're coming into our area. You're throwing bombs at us. We don't like you. We're blocking you. And you're saying that you're being discriminated against. It's just so ridiculous. And I've put up with that mentality for many, 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 many years through many, 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 many different kinds of opportunities that I have published online. Public discourse. And I love to have a conversation with people who do not agree with me, and I don't agree with them. And there's a way you can do it that can be interesting. Without taking it down to the level of discrimination and hatreds. Oh, Jan is giving us a weather report. Wear a light jacket. Yes, it's nice out now. But is it windy? So knowing that, and knowing that people cause trouble, some of the bigger social networks and social media have created, very creatively, a way to ban people without them knowing about it so they can complain. And it's called shadow banning. Oh, we're getting weather reports from Jan Marie. No, not windy yet. Okay. Okay. It's 13 miles per hour here out of the southwest. That's a little much. Obviously, Jan and I are not in the same city right now. She is somewhere else, a place that we cannot recognize or mention because we're being highly secretive. She's in New York, I'm in New Jersey. Oh, Dora says it's not windy, but she's in New York City too. We live on a very high hill in Jersey City, and it's very windy, and it's cold when it's windy like that. And I don't have the proper coat. I don't have a windbreaker. Oh, no. Now I'm getting picked on. You can handle it. Now, see, if I could ban her. Shadow ban her. Shadow ban my own wife. But I haven't explained what shadow banning is, so I better not do it. This entire conversation has gone all the way downhill, and I'm completely responsible for it. So we'll continue the weather reports, but I'm going to now show you this clinical definition of what a shadow ban is, and it was invented by smarter people than me who are in my situation who don't want to deal with these trolls who want to go in there and cause trouble. They don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear it. They don't want to hear it. Who wants to be attacked just because it's fun for them? The answer is nobody. Shadow banning, also called stealth banning, ghost banning, or comment ghosting, is the practice of blocking or partially blocking a user or their content, comments, from some areas of an online community so that it will not be readily apparent to the user that they have been banned. For instance, shadow banned comments posted to a blog or a media website will not be visible to other users accessing the site. Also, reducing the visibility or impressions within the main feed. By partially concealing or making a user's contributions invisible or less prominent to other members of the service. The hope may be that in the absence of reactions to their comments, the problematic or otherwise out-of-favor user will become bored or frustrated and leave the site, and that spammers and trolls will be discouraged to continue their unwanted behavior or create new accounts. Oh, Jana Marie's giving herself a promotion in the middle of our shadow ban. She will do an ASL storytelling embedded into a song. It sounds very complex and very interesting. And she hopes to see everyone there. I will be there. I will be cheering her on. Now, you can imagine that the people who are getting shadow banned tend to be stereotypically, generally speaking, conservative. Because that's what they like to do. They like to go in and bomb people. So the conservative media gets outraged, conservatives get outraged, it becomes this big vicious circle of, have I been shadow banned? And sometimes they know, and sometimes they don't know. Well, Janet's back. It's not complex. Everyone will understand it. Oh, that's wonderful. And shadow banning is necessary because if you just ban them outright, then they sort of have evidence and they can prove things that are going on. Oh, Dora's going to be there tomorrow too. Oh, that's wonderful. Oh, and we get a little promo. How fabulous is that? Right on time. I didn't do it. That's a bot. It's a bot on a timer that pops up every once in a while to say hello and to give us a nice promotion. So some websites say, hey, this shadow banning's a thing. Here's how to recognize it. Here's how to avoid it. Any way you avoid being shadow banned is by behaving, by being a nice person. You can disagree with people online and not be shadow banned. You're shadow banned because you're cursing at people, you're making death threats, you're trying to hurt people's feelings. You will understand, Dora. Yay! So, you can avoid getting shadow banned by just behaving properly. And there's Hootsuite, wonderful company. They help making you publish to your social networks easier and more enjoyable. Getting shadow banned in every social media manager's worst nightmare. Sure, most social platforms deny the shadow ban is really a thing at all. We tried for ourselves to get shadow banned on Instagram with no luck. But there are many, 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 many people out there who are adamant that the shadow ban is real. It is real. It's a thing. It's a good thing. Twitter shadow ban. The last time Twitter talked about shadow banning explicitly was in this blog post from 2018. Right off the top, Twitter's pretty clear. People are asking us if we shadow ban, we do not. They say they don't, but I hope they do. Because you have to keep your area clean. You cannot have people coming in and pooping all over your stuff just because they believe it's their God-given right to be a jerk. And that's how they talk. That's their philosophy. I can come in and say whatever I want to say. I can make whatever death threat I want to make, and you can't take it down. So you do take it down, but you take it down very delicately by shadow banning them. The CEO of Instagram, Adam Mosseri, has been adamant that shadow banning is not a thing. Well, I'm going to show you that it is a thing on Instagram, and that's okay with me. He also said that showing up on the Explore page isn't guaranteed for anyone, elaborating that sometimes you'll get lucky, sometimes you won't. See, that's what people say, is, well, people can't see my messages, so I must be banned. Instagram's policies confirm that it hides public posts that it deems inappropriate from the Explore and hashtag pages. So even if you aren't violating any guidelines, if Instagram decides your post isn't up to snuff for broader consumption, you might find yourself quietly excluded from the platform's discovery tools. So that's sort of a ban, not really a ban. It's more algorithm than ban. What I'm talking about is something that's specifically aimed at a specific user, which we'll get into in a moment. So TikTok bans, shadow ban. People are very upset when they get shadow banned. The official YouTube Twitter account has declared loud and clear, "We don't shadow ban." And I yell right back, saying, "Why not? You should be." Facebook has been unusually silent on the topic of shadow bans, which I'm going to tell you about in just a moment. No one said they do shadow ban, but no one has said that they don't shadow ban. Facebook's remove, reduce, inform content policy does seem to teeter a bit on the edge of shadow ban-esque behavior. Posts that violate community standards or added policies are taken down altogether, but posts that contain what feedback calls problematic content might be dropped low in the newsfeed ranking. How to tell if you've been shadow banned? None of these are reliable, but we'll take a look at them. You see a dip in engagement, meaning you don't get likes or people don't comment on you because they can't see your message even though it's there. Your username or hashtag doesn't show up when you search for yourself in search engines. Certain features are suddenly unavailable to you. Only to you. Your friends and family have full access, but you're not able to access. How do you avoid getting shadow banned? Don't violate community guidelines. What does that mean? Behave. Be a nice person. Don't act like a bot. Don't use banned hashtags. This is all behavior rated. Don't be spammy. Be consistent. Don't pay for likes or comments or followers. Treat others respectfully, sorry. So, shadow banning is a thing. Instagram shadow ban is real. How to test and prevent it. Here's a whole article on how you can prevent yourself from being shadow banned on Instagram. And they call it engagement and algorithms. The Instagram shadow ban test. There is no foolproof test to tell if you've been shadow banned on Instagram. While there are tools that advertise they can do exactly that, these tools are not reliable. Instead, try the steps below. Check your hashtag pages. Check your Instagram insights. Why am I shadow banned? Behavior. You use bots or another tool. You use broken hashtags. Other people report you for your bad behavior. You've been engaging too quickly. You've been putting too many likes on people's accounts. You've been unfollowing too often. Instagram does have a lot of strange rules. And I don't think those are really shadow bans. I think they're just bans for bad behavior. Banned hashtags that start with an L, whatever that means. Take a 2-day break. People have reported that if you take 2 days off from Instagram, you can reset the system and get you back on track and you're not banned anymore. Now, the other thing I ever see, this is where I got my idea to talk about this, because I got this wonderful PR thing that's hard to read. I can't seem to make it any bigger. About this company who created sort of a website for selling cannabis online, okay? We talked about pot. I get hotboxed at 9 a.m. every morning when I start this live stream. But I support the idea. I think marijuana can help people feel better. I just wish you wouldn't do it as my neighbor when it's not allowed. And so this is what they created. Effortless compliance for cannabis marketers, right? So you can get a free Instagram health check. And I'm not promoting this, I'm sharing this idea with you. And the idea is you can run your Instagram post through this website to see if you have any things in there that would get you algorithmically punished or shadow banned. So shadow banning is a whole thing that is now an industry unto itself. And the idea is, look, we know you want to sell your stuff. Because it's pot, people are very sensitive to it. So we've created these algorithms of our own that will check to see if your content is going to be published or not. And we can help you be positive, be forward-thinking, and not have your post taken down. So I think it's a very interesting way to fight a shadow ban through, say it again, behavior modification. And now this leads me to my own conclusion about shadow banning. As I've said, I have just outright banned people, and it does cause a lot of problems and extra headaches that you don't want to mess with. So shadow banning, if you can do it, is a wonderful way to put people in a corner where they can just yell and scream at the wall, and I can see it, and they can see it, and nobody else can see it. And they might wonder, why is nobody responding to my outrage? Well, and there is a way on Facebook, if you have a business page, where you can moderate comments on your page, because it's your page, it's your business. All right? Now that's very good and very interesting. And people then complain when this happens to them. Hey, no one can see my comment. And they blame Facebook. Well, you can blame Facebook, but if you're doing this, you're starting fires for people, causing trouble on a business page. A business doesn't want that junk in their comments. The insult, the snotty reply. No one's interested in reading that, especially a content creator. So you can click on, as an admin, you can click on that message, that comment, and delete it, remove it, ban the person, or you have an option as the page owner, not as Facebook, as the page owner, to make this comment visible to only the person who posted it, or, which is very clever, only the people in that friend group of that person. Because that's the first thing these people who throw firebombs in your comments do, is they say, I've been banned, I've been shadow banned, and then all their friends come and attack you for shadow banning them. They use their friend network to double, triple check to see if their friend has been banned, or if they've been banned. Well, if all of these bad actors and behaviors are in this little silo, timeout in the corner, and they can all see each other, oh, we're not banned, I could come in on you, can come in on my, but the rest of the world, the rest of your community of minds across the universe, touching the sun to touch God, can't see it. It's been removed from sight. It's only visible to the bad actor and the bad actor's friends. And you can reduce it down. It's just the bad actor. The bad actor's friends can't see it either. You can make that a choice as well. And it's the most wonderful thing. Because the person is going to leave you alone. You don't have to ever answer them. They're talking into an echo chamber, which is what upset them the most about Parler, is that they couldn't attack liberals, so now they come into liberal sanctuaries and attack them there. They just all talk amongst themselves and rail against themselves, and they're doing it all in a darkened room with the light turned off and the sound cut. And to me, that's the best way to handle these kind of people. You don't want to hear it. Nobody wants to hear that. But that's what drives them. They're going to be heard. They're going to start a fight. They're going to be the center of attention. Even though you're talking about this, they're going to talk about that. And that's a problem as a content creator, because you want people to go like this. Let's all be on the same page and talk about one idea. Disagree, agree, let's have a conversation. They don't want a conversation. They want to blow up the place. And I say, come on over, blow up the place, and you're going to do it in a silo. So that's one thing that I really enjoy as a Facebook administrator of my own page, that I can do that to my community, with my community, to protect my community. Instagram, I don't think they allow that. I can't find it. On Twitter, really the only option you have is just to block the person. They can still talk about you, but you can block them so you don't have to see it. And I do. I have a big block ban. Most of them are bots that followed me. But that's the world in which we live today. People are not content with content. They want content that creates chaos. And that is a problem for people who don't want chaos and don't want conflict. They just want to try to understand each other, have a smaller world where everything makes sense and fits together, even if it doesn't make sense. Well, we thought it was fuzzy, but it's actually sharp and wrinkly. That's what she said. And with that terrible office joke to end this wonderful stream, I'm going to see you tomorrow. 9 a.m. Eastern, here on Boles.tv. BOLES.tv, if you're watching on closed captions. Jana Marie will be here, yay, on Friday to share her infinite wealth and wisdom about American Sign Language. Formal lessons on Friday about ASL. And then, Saturday, Sunday, Jana Sweeney, Ask a Deaf Person, where she has an hour chat each day, about an hour, maybe she'll go more, longer, where she talks about disability and deafness and other issues that concern the disabled community. And if you don't have any questions, she's going to talk about the news or tell you stories from her life, and they're all very interesting. She has a big pile of stuff to talk about. It's very fun. Can't wait to see it. In the meantime, if you have a question for me or for Jana Marie, you can reach us here in chat. You can email us, david@boles.tv. You can also find us on Twitter. Yeah. @DavidBoles. On the Facebook, Boles is the username. On Instagram, we are Boles Books. On Discord, I can't remember. I think we're David Boles. You can find me. Go to bolesblogs.com, go to the bottom of the page. In the right sidebar at the bottom, you'll see our Discord server there, listing all the interesting action we have going on. And for now, I thank you so much for being part of this wonderful live stream. And I look forward to seeing you tomorrow. Stay in touch. Be well. Let us know what you're thinking, what you're wondering, and where you hope your dreams will land. I'll see you tomorrow.